Okay, welcome everyone. We're going to give it about a moment here to let everyone pop in from the waiting room, and then we will begin. And very excited to have everyone here with us. We are going to be talking about the importance of voting and talking about really why it's important for our community in particular. So we'll give it just 1 minute to let folks come in out of the waiting room, and then we can get started. Hey, I think in the essence of time, we will go ahead and get started and have folks who are joining us join afterwards. We are recording this. The other thing I do want to mention for you all, we had hoped to get an interpreter here for this session, but unfortunately we were unable to for today. So we really encourage everyone to include or to turn on their closed captioning through Zoom. These are fairly accurate, and we are hoping for anything that we do in the future to include an interpreter so that we can really have that access that we need in here. But for now, we are going to go with the closed captions, so we hope that everyone is able to see that. But thank you once again for joining us here. My name is Luke Sakinya. I'm the Director of Public Policy at the Alliance for Rights and Recovery, formerly NIAPRS. And we are joined here today by a number of statewide agencies in New York, including Families Together in New York State, the Mental Health Association in New York State, the Mental Health Empowerment Project, and NAMI New York State as well. So we're really thankful to have everyone here with us. And really just to begin us off, we're here because voting is essential for health. We have seen not only that it's a social determinant of health, but it really allows folks to get their self-determination and really another aspect of really being involved in the community. Some things to really note before we really get into individual speakers here, but some general understanding of our community, which is the mental health and substance use community, versus the general population. We see, according to Bazelon Center, that folks with a mental health challenge are 2 to 3 times less likely to vote than the general population. We're also seeing that about folks with disabilities, folks with a mental health challenge in particular, are about 7% lower voter turnout than other folks with disabilities. So that is really concerning to see, and that's one area where we're not really participating in the public life, the public conversation when it comes to politics, and when it comes to representation. We often, as advocates, talk about nothing about us without us. And one of the ways that we are directly represented is through voting. And at that ballot box, that's how we determine who the best person to represent us is. And without being there, we can't influence that. So today we're going to talk about a little bit more about why it's important for us to vote. And then we're going to talk about some resources that many groups have put together, many of these groups have put together, I should say, both from within our own organizations and then outside of our organizations. We want to make it as easy as it possibly can be to help you all register and then plan to vote. So we are going to talk about that during our second half a little bit on the resources, and then we'll have some time for a question and answer session towards the end here. So first and foremost, I want to hand it over to Josie Matthews, who is an Alliance sorry, excuse me, uh, who works with the Alliance for Rights and Recovery as a member of multiple committees, including our Cultural Competence Committee. But Josie, if you can start us off. Thank you.
Awesome, and good evening, everyone. Like Luke has said, my name is Josie Matthews, and I am a social justice and peer justice advocate. I work for many organizations, but Alliance is one of my closest to my heart, and I'm honored to be here with you on this evening, talking about the importance of voting and how it intersects with mental health as well as the criminal justice system. So, just in a brief moment, I'm going to talk about 3 bullet points under mental health, and then 3 bullet points under criminal justice. So voting is a crucial aspect of democracy, and its impacts extends beyond political decisions to areas like mental health and the criminal justice system. Here's a closer look on how voting intersects with these two fields. First is mental health. First one is a sense of agency and a well-being. Empowerment. Voting gives individuals a sense of control and participation in this decision making processes that affect their lives. These can enhance the feelings of self-worth and reduce the feelings of helplessness. And then you have a sense of community and connection. Being a part of the voting process can foster a sense of belonging and connection to the community, which is a beneficial for mental health. We have representation of mental health issues, policy and influence. Voting allows individuals to support candidates and policies that prioritize mental health services, funding, and awareness. This can lead to better health resources and better systems for support. And then we have advocacy. By voting, individuals can influence the election of representatives who are committed to addressing mental health concerns, potentially leading to systemic changes that can improve the mental health care and its support. Lastly, under mental health, I want to talk about the mental health and voting accessibility. Barriers to voting. Voting for individuals with mental health conditions, accessing voting booths, can be challenging at times. Ensuring that voting processes are inclusive, accessible, can help those address these barriers and support equitable participation. And then next I'm going to talk about, which is the criminal justice aspect of it. One is the reform system. Influence on policy yet again. Voting enables citizens to choose leaders that supports policies aimed at reforming the criminal justice system. This includes addressing issues like mass incarceration, police reform, and sentencing laws. And then the impact on legislation. Voters can influence the passage of laws related to criminal justice as measures to promote rehabilitation over incarceration or to support restorative justice practices. And then we have rights and representation. Restoring voting rights. Many individuals with felony convictions lose their voting rights. Advocating for restoration of these rights through voting can help integrate formerly incarcerated individuals into society and give them a voice in shaping policies that affect them. And then we have policy impact. Elected officials have the power to shape criminal justice policies. Voting for representatives who prioritize criminal justice reform can lead to meaningful changes. And that's how system operates. Then we have resources and safety support. Resources allocation. Voting influences how resources are allocated within communities, including funding for crime prevention, community programs, rehabilitation services. Effective resource management can lead to safer communities, better support system of those who are affected by crime. And in conclusion, voting is a vital role in shaping policies and systems that impact the mental health and criminal justice. By participating in elections, individuals can influence systems that affect their well-being, and their fairness and effectiveness of the criminal justice system in all, ensuring that all eligible individuals have access to voting and to understand its importance can contribute to more of an equitable and a supportive society. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Josie. That is wonderful information to have. And I know just a quick preview, we will have a lot of resources for folks who are previously justice involved. I know Jayette's going to be very excited to share some of those, as well as Graham and all of our folks here. But next, I wanted to invite Zach with the Mental Health Empowerment Project to speak to us a little bit.
Thanks, Luke. Thanks for organizing this, you, Harvey, and for taking the lead on bringing us all together. And it's great to see so many wonderful faces, particularly families together, where I got my start in all of this. So I wanted to start by just talking about cross-disability organizing as individuals with labels and systems experience. We're part of the broader disability community. And the broader disability community is a voting bloc. It has the potential to be a sizable voting bloc on par with, other voting blocs, such as the Black community. So I want to share some of the stuff that we here at MAHEP have been doing to sort of galvanize organizing. Again, everything's nonpartisan. It's about helping people realize that they have a voice, that their voice and their unique experiences matter, and that you can take that to the ballot box. So some of the things that we've done, include organizing local town halls. This is Albany specific, but it's replicable in any community across the state, across the nation, whatever the case may be. So, for instance, inviting candidates for the assembly race, for the district attorney's race. And we formulated a questionnaire. It was developed. It was all about questions that impacted the peer community. We had some broader questions about the disability community. And it was really driven by us, a group of people with lived experience. And we got buy-in from the local party. And so they were kind of like the liaisons between us and the candidates. So, we found it very useful to get buy-in from party leadership. Again, we're nonpartisan, but we're working with different political parties, and that is perfectly fine, because everything that we are doing is about educating the community members. Also working with the local boards of elections on making sure that polling places are accessible. It's kind of like, 30 plus years later with the ADA, and there are still corner stores that are inaccessible to people in wheelchairs. Well, unfortunately, and I'm not calling out anything in particular, but some polling places are, for instance, they're not on a bus line. They don't have, the ballot marking device, BMD. It's not set up by the time, the polls open. Sometimes the election inspectors, poll workers don't know how to actually operate these things. So it's these common sense things that unfortunately are not recognized at the very beginning. So we've done some work with the local county board of elections on educating election inspectors and poll workers on disability issues. So like influencing the curriculum, and then even getting people affiliated with us, to take the poll worker class and then go out and, be poll workers on election day. Again, this is replicable. Over the years, I've known folks in different parts of the state who have tried to do this in their particular neck of the woods. And then finally, something that we're working on here is trying to, reinvigorate something that had been tried many years ago in New York State, building the state disability voter rights network. So basically, getting informed consent from eligible voters to be a part of this to basically build a list of people with disabilities, peers, the entire gamut, and be able to provide topical information to them, polling locations, who are your local officials, everyone from like municipal county officials to state assembly, senate. And so we're looking to build that out, and for that to be successful and to actually be a useful tool for organizing and mobilizing people to the polls, that's something that we definitely look forward to collaborating with everybody on this. So I guess in conclusion, um, if you're not registered, register to vote. We can certainly help you, figure out how to do that. Um, learn about the issues, and obviously you're going to be combating all sorts of mis and disinformation out there. That's so commonplace and so unfortunate. We MAHAP Mental Health Empowerment Project, we do a training on understanding, trying to be able to sort fact from fiction, what's real, what's not, in terms of what's out there, what's a reliable source, what's not. And I guess really quickly before I wrap up, for those in Albany, love to invite you guys to, we're having a block party here at MAHAP, 204 2nd Street. I will send that information to Luke. We're having a block party tomorrow. It's going to be awesome. We're shutting down the street, and we partner with a bunch of local organizations. So come on out to that. It's not necessarily voting, but it's about creating community and that sense of empowerment. So thank you, Luke. I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Zach. And as we continue talking about community, the community really starts in that family here. So we want to shift over to families together, and a perfect shift over here with Zach and Zach. So we're going to go to our other Zach, Zach Kilmer over here.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Luke. And I'm happy to take the Herald as the current Families Together resident, Zach. Apparently, we always have to have one. So everyone, I'm the Youth Public Policy Coordinator at Families Together in New York State, and I'm going to talk about voting specifically from a youth lens. So we often hear the adage that young people are our future. It gets touted around a lot. Yet oftentimes lawmakers and politicians do not listen to us. Youth voice is ignored often at the systemic level, and young people are tokenized without being reflected in actual public policy. For example, polling shows that a staggering 87% of Gen Z say that they are struggling with mental health issues. 61% of those young people experience barriers in accessing mental health services. This is a mental health crisis. So, why do politicians not do enough to address this? There is a glaring answer to that question. It is, in part, because we historically do not vote. Youth aged 18 to 29 have the lowest turnout rates of any age demographic. Voter registration among young people is down 5% in New York State compared to 2020. And in the last midterm election in 2022, only 20% of eligible young people in New York cast a ballot. Elected leaders listen to their constituents. It may sound cynical, but their job is to get reelected. In order to make change, we need to make sure that young people are at the table and that their voice is heard. And that starts at the ballot box. Many of us are here, myself included, because we have involvement with the mental health system. Every single aspect of that system in our state is a policy choice. Being unable to find a service that's in your insurance network, that's a choice. The increasing size of wait lists, a choice. Young people are most likely to access mental health supports in schools, and yet oftentimes those services are underfunded or non-existent. All of those are policy choices by our state government. If every eligible young person voted in New York State on November 5th, we would have a state government that was making dramatically different mental health policy choices. I wish I could find the quote in the exact wording, but it goes something like, voting is like civic hygiene. It is both crucial and basic and not enough. It's where we start, not end. Once candidates are elected, we need to hold them accountable to their promises. We need lawmakers who will implement a fair, equitable, and thriving mental health system in New York. The only way we do that is by voting them in and making sure they walk the walk as well as talk the talk. Legislative meetings, uh, calls to action, rallies, phone calls, letters, tweets. These are all legislative tools in our advocacy toolkits that we must utilize after the elections. But it all starts with casting a ballot, which we as young people need to do. I hope to see you on November 5th, and thank you for listening.
Right. Thank you so much, Zach. I think all of what you just said is so critical, especially when we talk about the choices that are made by our legislature. I can't talk about how many times that we have really wanted to have a good legislator who is really on our side, and how useful it is when we have those folks there, folks who understand what we are talking about, understand what we need, and are willing to really be those champions. As we move on to talk a little bit about the family aspect here, we have Simca, who will give us a little bit more information.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity, and phenomenal input so far. So this has been very inspiring for me. So I am the proud father of a son on the autism spectrum. I work with families together in the DEI and the community engagement department. I proudly refer to myself not as an advocate, but a dadvocate. And I would say that as dadvocates and parents and caregivers, we see where our systems fall short. And by voting, we're able to choose leaders who care about closing those gaps and making sure our loved ones get the care that they deserve, and pushing for policies that are both inclusive and supportive. And as Zach G mentioned, it was a phenomenal point, that the disability community is a large voting bloc. It's something I never really considered. In fact, if you look at the disability community, it's the largest minority community in the country. So making our voice heard as a collective bloc certainly has a power. Voting for me is more than just casting a vote. In fact, it doesn't end with casting that vote. For me, voting is advocacy, and advocacy is ministry. And meeting policymakers for me has been eye-opening in both a positive and sometimes not so positive manner. I'll quote the late Robin Williams, who famously said that politicians should wear sponsor jackets like NASCAR drivers, and then we can know who owns them. Not my words, Robin Williams. And for me, that being involved in the system and with legislators and with policy, it's really a great way for me to show my kids and my society how important it is to be active in community matters. Plus, I would argue it's fun. Advocacy and to be involved in legislation and politics, change makers. I love getting in that car and going up to Albany. It is very inspiring for me. And I would also add that navigating voting with lived experiences can be difficult. Voting can be tricky for some in the mental health community, especially with the challenges of understanding complicated ballots. And I'll give a little sprinkle of my own lived experience. I was diagnosed as an adult with ADHD, and I do struggle. I struggle at the ballot. And I struggle that it's not explained to me. It's not broken down for me. And I do find the process overwhelming. Finally, I would say that learning where candidates stand on mental health issues and related comorbidities can make a big difference. And with the right information, we can all make choices that reflect what we care most about and what is most best for our loved ones and for our world. So I really support this endeavor, and I'm thrilled to be a part of it. So thank you.
You're on
You're
mute,
muted,
Luke.
Luke.
Okay. A couple years into this Zoom thing and still gets me every once in a while. But I was trying to say thank you very much. And we really appreciate that that approach. And I think, as you said a lot of things, and all of you have said things that I think I might steal a little bit, as any good advocate does, but I really like that idea of advocacy as ministry, and really consistent about it, and really especially like the idea about, after voting, continuing to meet with those electeds and making sure that we are involved throughout the process. We are going to move on here to Haley, who is with the with NAMI New York State. And Haley, please let us know what else you all have been doing, and why voting is important from your side of things.
Thanks so much, Luke. Appreciate it. And also just want you to know I'm still learning Zoom after having been operating it for about 5 years now. So it's really okay. For those who don't know, I'm Haley Emring. I am the coordinator of youth initiatives at the National Alliance on Mental Illness, New York State. We are the state chapter for this organization. I'm filling in tonight for my colleague, Matthew Shapiro, who was not able to make it, but sends his best wishes. So, kind of just going into it a little bit for my own focus, I love that I get to help young adults find their advocacy voices and share their stories in order to bring about positive change. Even just earlier this year, NAMI New York State held our first ever youth-focused advocacy day, and it was led by our lived experience youth advisory group. We call them our next geners. So we're really proud of all the work that they've been able to do. And honestly, I can't add too much more on other than what our wonderful, panelists have already added. So I'll keep it relatively short here. But, other than that youth, focused Ledge Day, now we've been turning the page a little bit more, focusing on how a crucial way to make our voices heard yet again is through voting. And we want to get all our members excited to do so. We try to really stress the importance of all of this. We know that 50% of lifetime mental illness begins around age 14 and about 75% by age 24. And with such a high prevalence, it's safe to say that mental illness impacts a lot of people. And also more important to note that this doesn't exclude families by any mean either. I think a lot of the time we do talk about the individual, but families are often so impacted by mental health conditions. Just again, taking it a little further, we know that 1 in 5 Americans experience mental illness every year. So to just take a step back, we know that these people at the end of the day are all family members who are greatly impacted. So, with all of this, we just want to be able to educate and work with the community on how we can best make our voices heard. And voting really is a direct example on how we can ensure that we have lawmakers that prioritize mental health and that create policy to address the mental health disparities that exist. So appreciate you all for attending tonight, and I will kick it back to Luke for our next session.
Yes. Before we begin on the second half, I did want to show you all the resource flyer that Mahaney's was very kind to put together, with a number of resources for you all to utilize. We'll be sending this around to folks. Sorry, I just had to check to see if I was on mute or not. But we will be sending this around to all of you all who have registered, and we also plan to send it out to other folks. And encourage you to share this video, this resource, and others that we'll be dropping into the chat over the next over the rest of the event here. And we really encourage you to continue encouraging other people to register to vote. I will make a quick plug for our upcoming conference. The Alliance will have a voting registration and voter civic engagement presentation at the Alliance conference, where we'll talk about planning to vote and helping you with that. But we also have a lot of resources here that also include that. So we really encourage you to utilize that. But I'm actually going to hand it right back to Haley to talk about some of the resources that NAMI has put together.
Tag, you're it. I love it. Yeah. So to kind of get into it, obviously voting has been a major priority for NAMI New York State, but it also has been for NAMI National as well, which is why they launched the Vote for Mental Health website. And Vote for Mental Health is about more than just a single policy issue. It's about knowing how these different issues affect people with mental health conditions. So from healthcare, housing, the economy, criminal justice, and so many more other topics. So this page really explains the importance of local elections and how every elected official, from the president and Congress to county commissioners and city council members, has the influence on issues impacting people affected by mental health conditions. So it's really ultimately why your vote matters on every level, especially the local level. Want to bring up, and I'll put the link in the chat in a second, but when you do visit this page, we encourage you to take the pledge for Vote for Mental Health. And in doing so, you commit to understanding how your vote directly impacts people living with a mental health condition and how you can act on it. And finally, it is so important that everyone voting has a plan. So when you take this pledge, you'll be sent information on actually how to vote in your state and steps on how to take and understand where candidates stand on issues that you personally care about. So I'm urging you all again, just please to make sure that you vote for mental health by visiting that page and taking that pledge and making your voting plan. We often say at NAMI that hope starts with you. So get on out there, vote, and make your voice and hope heard. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. And I really like that hope starts with you. And we are going to continue moving on here so that we can take some questions at the end here. We want to make sure that you all get some of these answered and a chance to follow up with many of us as well. But we are going to move on and invite Graham to speak to us about some of the resources that the Mental Health Association in New York State has created for us.
All right. Thank you so much, Zach, for putting this together. I really appreciate it. It's really inspiring to be around everybody solely focused on voting and getting people inspired and ready to engage in civic engagement, which is just wonderful. It's what we've been doing here at Mahaney's for a while. So hello, everybody. Thank you for being here tonight. My name is Graham Healy, and I'm the Community Program Manager at Mahaney's. Like I said, I'm very excited to be here with all these wonderful organizations. Before I start, I just want a quick introduction, in case you're not aware of who the Mental Health Association in New York State are. We are a statewide organization comprised of 26 affiliates in over 50 counties. At the county level, our affiliates do work in housing and case management with veterans, families, and whatever else is most needed in their communities. And at the state level, we have a particular focus on advocacy, especially around K through 12 and higher education, the workforce, family mental health, and community programming like this, Mahaney's Voter Empowerment Project, which I want to talk to you about tonight. I can click through it. There we go. So this project has existed in some form or another for decades, and it was birthed from the movement started by Ken Steele in New York City in the 90s. At Mahaney's, it's always been nonpartisan and had a particular focus on really truly empowering and educating people about not only their rights, but also their responsibilities around voting as well. Today, we have a webpage hosted on our Mahaney's website dedicated to this work. It hosts resources, and one of those is our 3-part voter empowerment video series, which I'm going to tell you a little bit about. Each video is informational in nature. We call them bite-sized because they're 3 to 4 minutes long. We're not trying to go on in these. It's designed for easy intake of information, right? It's designed for people with lived experience and their families to easily digest this information. So we encourage you to check them out. In our first video on it, we focus solely on what you need to know before you vote, right? We discuss the requirements, your rights, right? Whether individuals or with disabilities or for those in the criminal justice system, as been mentioned before, we have to talk about that, right? There's a lot of misinformation around that. So we go in and we dive into it on our website as well as in these videos, and we'll talk about that. In our second video, we break down the process of voting registration because we know that this is often the most difficult or at least the most stressful part for new voters, right? It's really overwhelming. So we take special care to discuss each step and exactly what is required of you to register so you are prepared and ready to go and exercise your civic duty. In our last video, we discussed what it actually looks like to vote. Whether that's in person, you have options now, right? Whether that's in person on election day, whether you're taking part in early voting, or via absentee ballot, which, quick note, New York State just reinstated absentee ballot voting for all New York State voters, regardless of reason. So be sure to check out our website and the informations that we've shared tonight for more information, because you have more options available to you, right? To get ready to vote, to get out there, to utilize the things that you're learning tonight. And finally, we talk about assistance that you can request or expect, and hopefully expect, right, as has been brought up, at polling locations, right? And when you vote and you advocate, then you can talk to your elected officials about making sure that those are accessible, that those are really happening. So just briefly, the series is hosted on our webpage, but you can see that on our screen. But it also hosts a lot of up-to-date voting information, right? Including important dates, thorough, frequently asked questions section. And then you can also download registrations for applications or find links to register online if that's something that you're able to do. So I really hope that you'll visit it and that you'll share it with those who could use it, and use the support, the knowledge that it provides. So just thank you, everybody, for being here tonight. And if anybody would like to contact me, my contact information is here, as well as the links for the Voter Empowerment Project. And hopefully we can discuss how that can support the work that you're already doing in your communities. So thank you, Luke.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. And then we are going to move on to our esteemed colleague, Jayette Lansbury, who has been doing quite a lot of work in many of these areas, actually, both criminal justice, forensics, family, all of these, are wonderful do-it-all advocate here. But Jayette, I know you had some resources to share, but also a couple other words about some other reasonings behind why it's so important for folks to vote.
Thank you, first of all, Luke, for introducing me. And thank you for your kind words. And thank you to everybody attending. So first off, I want to say I'm a member of many criminal justice organizations and mental health organizations, but my heart lies with NAMI and the Alliance. For those that don't know, I am a NAMI leader. I run an affiliate in Suffolk County. I also have been meeting with police district attorneys all over New York to change the way they handle mental health, and also do trainings for police and prosecutors about mental health. So I'm not new to this, I'm true to it. I have a close tie to the system that happened 27 years ago. And for those who don't know, I am a proud mom. So I'm the mama kit, not just the advocate, the mama kit. Because I've been advocating for my son since he was diagnosed at the age of 10 with both a mental illness, before that with autism. So I've been there, done that. So anyway, I want to give you all some resources. And the criminal justice system is very, very important for those that are formerly justice impacted, the people. First of all, I want everybody to know we do not call them inmates formerly incarcerated. They're not convicts. They're not felons. They're not defendants. They're people that are justice impacted by the system. And it's very important that they know that while they're in jail, as long as they have not been sentenced to a felony, they have the right to vote. If they're on probation or parole, they have the right to vote, and they do not have to get permission from their parole officer or probation officer. All they got to do is call the Board of Elections or go to the League of Women Voters. Either one will give them a ballot to vote. Second off, those that may be in the forensic system, they have the right to vote. They've had the right to vote for the past 26 years, even if they're deemed incompetent. The reason for that is they have social workers and treatment team leaders that will help them fill out their ballot, help them to vote. if the family wants to do it, the family can get the absentee ballots. First, you got to register the person. Let's get that done first. The family can get the registration form, register that person as an absentee ballot, get the ballot sent to the house, and help their loved ones fill it out on a visit. And this way, they vote by absentee ballot from their own address. The reason why we stress that is so it stops the gerrymandering. For those that don't know what gerrymandering is, wherever you are incarcerated, whether it's a forensic psych, a civil psych, or a jail, or you don't vote in prison in New York, even though other states do. But anyway, that money goes to that community and not back to the home community. So the services that that loved one may need when they get out may not be there. So that's why we turn around and we ask for the families to do to help them do the absentee ballot to stop the gerrymander. Now for the resources. The resources are the League of Women Voters of New York State. Every county has a league in it that can help you get your ballot or get the absentee ballot. They're very nice people. They won't scream at you or shout at you or tell you, no, you're not welcome here. Trust me, I sit on the state as well as the local League of Women Voters. I sit on what we call their INA, which is Issues and Advocacy. I'm very well respected at the state level as well as the county level as well as the local. And they are big on criminal justice and getting those that are formerly incarcerated their right to vote, and those that live with mental illness and other disabilities exercising their rights to vote. And it is very, very important for everybody with formerly incarcerated, those that have disabilities, even cross disabilities, the right to vote. I was also responsible for getting the nursing homes in Suffolk County to get their residents the right to vote. They would bring them the machines, not bring people to the machines, or not ask the families to be there. Now just think of it, you're 60 or 70 or even 80 years old. You're sitting in a nursing home because you can't live at home alone no more. And you want to know who your local legislative is and what he's doing, but yet you don't vote. I mean, I started because of my mom. She felt when she was in assistive care before she went into conglomerate care that her right to vote was taken away from her. So yes, those in nursing homes have the right to vote. Even if their mind is, they got Alzheimer's, you still, as a family member, encourage them what little bit they can, their right to vote. It's our voice, our choice. So if we want our choice, then we have to use our voice. Also, the Board of Elections in each county will send out registration forms for you to register to vote as long as you meet the qualifications. And one thing we're doing at the League is we're fighting to lower the age of voting to the age of 17. So everybody in high school that's 17 and older will have the right to register to vote. So all of you got young ones at home, make sure if they're 18 or up right now that they're registered to vote. And when the law comes in for 17, make sure, like I said before, youth need to vote. We need to vote for mental health. We need to vote for health, period, but especially mental health. Because with mental health comes cross disability. I've been in this fight for longer than I want to say, but It's important. Also, there's a website called Vote for All, which has a lot of resources. Also, the New York Civil Liberties Union website, and the Civil Liberties Union website has resources for people that are formerly justice impacted and their rights to vote. Everybody, I don't care who you are, us as women fought hard to get our rights to vote. Everybody fought hard for their rights. John Lewis, God rest his soul, walked across that bridge and got stoned and beat with rocks and sticks, but he still fought for that right to vote. So did Martin Luther King Jr., who landed up in jail as a minister to vote for all our rights. So let's show these people we vote them in, we'll vote them out. We can vote them out. And let's show everybody it's our choice, so we're using our voice. And remember, for those that have loved ones or loved ones themselves that are formerly incarcerated, get out there, get registered, and vote. All of our voices are important. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jayette. Well said. We are going to move on to a quick little section on some Q&A. Some questions were around folks' contact information. I've shared that, and we'll share that again in the chat shortly. But one really big question that has come up has been, one of the challenges is finding out information about our candidates. There's so much information around, but sometimes it's so hard to parse through what a candidate actually believes, what they are going to vote for, or what they have voted for before, if they themselves used to be in government or were previously elected. So I just wanted to open it up. I see Jayette has her hand up, but also open up to the rest of the presenters here, if you want to share some information about where to find info about, what policy positions each candidate has. Jayette?
All right. First of all, the League of Women Voters does have town halls, and they have the meet and greets with the candidates, no matter what the candidates are running for, whether it's the town, the local, the county, the state, and federal. Reach out to League of Women Voters and you can find out what the candidates. Also, if you go to the candidates' website, they all have a website, especially in this age. You can find out what their wants are and what they're going against. Also, what I wanted to say, you can also pay attention to the newspaper, even if you don't get it in print, because they do make those rundowns on the candidates. But the league does do forums and town halls, and they do the meets and greets. And
Thank you.
also, the 411 is another website.
Yeah, and I we'll take a moment for a quick shameless plug here, but we are working with the League of Women Voters to host a number of candidate forums throughout the state. I know Mahaney's will be hosting a candidate forum as well. I know a number of folks from this collection of advocates will be asking questions to candidates, and we'll hopefully be able to post those as well. But I did want to invite Graham at Mahaney's to speak a little bit about that as well.
Yeah, so we'll be hosting a local candidates night in October in conjunction with a lot of our good friends at various organizations. But really, if you want to find out information about what local candidates are saying, or national candidates, I back what Jay is saying. I mean, you need to look them up directly. That's a big one. Unfortunately, there are not a lot of centralized locations of what everybody is specifically saying. You can find those from election to election, but they're usually being built as it's happening. But I would highly encourage everybody to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, and anybody else who has any thoughts about that before we move on here?
They also go to different places for fundraisers, and it's usually put out there. You can always find out from the candidate if they're going to your local neighborhood and they're going to a fundraiser. It's all right to step in there and ask a question during that time.
Thank you. And just to quickly answer Jeff's question in the chat, we have talked a good bit about how folks in both hospitals, state centers, as well as forensic centers are able to vote. You can either do so through absentee ballots. We definitely encourage that. There are also other ways to ensure people are able to vote. I believe Jay mentioned that the league has been working a lot with folks in a lot of these centers to ensure that both providers and social workers and other folks are helping people register to vote. But please reach out to us if you want more information on that. And then, since we don't have any other questions that I see so far, I did want to open it up, within our last 9 minutes here, if each person who presented wanted to just give one takeaway that our attendees should know before they leave. What's the number one thing that you think is important from your angle of things? And I'm going to start us off with Josie. Oh, Josie, we can't hear you too well. How about this, Josie? I'm going to move to Zach, and then we'll come back to you at the end.
I'm going to keep it short and sweet. In the words of Justin Dart, the father of the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act, vote as if your life depends on it, because it does.
And then we have Simca.
Yeah, I would say simply that show up and show up again. And that I have found that with sort of repeat trips to Albany and to stay involved and to stay engaged, you start becoming familiar, people recognize you and start taking you seriously, as they should. So what do they say? 80% of success is showing up. So show up, because we could have this Zoom all night, but if we're not showing up, nothing's happening. So thank you. Show up.
Okay, I'm going to ask for a quick guest spot from Brad, who you have not heard from just yet. But if you want to share anything really quickly, Brad, feel free to.
Oh boy, no, I don't, Luke. I appreciate it. Everything Simka said, everything Zach said, and I want to cue it up to the next Zach.
All right, and that is Jayette.
I gotta say, I agree with Simca on one thing: be persistent, show up, step up, step out, speak up, and speak out. Because if you be quiet, what's ever going on, it's going to keep going on, and we're not going to change it for ourselves or others. Yes, families say they have loved ones with mental illness and disabilities, but I got to tell you, after being a family peer advocate and running family groups, support groups, and all, the families are also on the spectrum. We are also on the spectrum with our loved ones because we have depression, anxiety, and everything else that goes with it. So we may get diagnosed later on, but we're there with our family members. And let's remember this: we are our brother's keepers. So if it's not even for us, it's for others and our loved ones that are in the justice system, even if they're not exactly our loved ones, but our friends. Remember, if they're parole or probation or haven't been sentenced yet, get them to vote. Because like we say, your life depends on it. And it's true, it does. And our voice, our choice.
Thank you. And Haley, our next person.
Yeah, honestly, simply put, I think there's a lot of people in our current climate that feel not I guess, excited to vote, or they think it doesn't matter, I'm one person. So I just want to stress the importance that your voice does matter. I know it's like so cliche, but it's so true that like if everyone thought that way, we especially wouldn't see change or have things get done. So just stressing the importance that your voice matters and can make a difference, and just to show up again, just to echo what everyone else has been saying. Thank you.
All right, and then Graham.
Yeah, I don't know how I top a lot of the inspiring words that have just been said, but I'll tell you that if you feel overwhelmed with the process of voting, like it's okay, that's natural, right? If there's one thing that tonight shows, there's a lot of organizations in New York State, and we are just a handful of them that are ready to support and help people to register, learn the process, and get out there and do all of the things that everybody's been saying tonight. So get out there, exercise your vote, exercise your voice, and know that there are organizations and people out there that'll help you every step of the way if you need it.
Luke, can I add on to that quickly?
Yes, yeah.
Even if you call your board the board, yeah, your local board of elections, and you call the League of Women Voters, they will help you fill out that form. Also on Long Island, Suffolk, and Nassau, the Mental Health Association in Nassau County is great on doing that. Also, Turquoise House in Suffolk, it's Federation, hands across Long Island, and the Center for Health and Wellness, the Association for Health and Wellness. And also, if you're a woman, you can go to New Hour to get help, and you can also go to the League of Women Voters as well as board election, and also at the Civil Liberties Union, they'll help.
Thank you. And then
The
Zach
The
Kilmer.
Poor People's Campaign, if anybody's tied in with them, they will help you get to the polls.
Thank you. And Zach Kilmer, thank you. Perfect. If you have any last words here before we go to Josie to close us out.
I have exactly one last word. Vote.
I love it. Short and sweet. And Josie.
Can you hear me now?
A little bit better. Let's do it.
Just vote, guys. Vote. Our future depends on it. Just do it. We need it. That's it.
Well, thank you. And I don't think I can say it much better than that. Just vote. Thank you to everyone who participated in this panel presentation. I encourage you all to connect with the presenters. I'm going to put their information back into the chat. I don't seem... Well, I will put that back into the chat, and we'll also send that information out to all of the folks who were here. The last thing I will note here is that we are talking about voting today, but as you heard, advocacy does not end with voting, but throughout the entire year, whether it's an election year or not, I encourage you all to connect with all of our organizations to increase your advocacy, see what we are doing. We're doing a lot of great things between all of our groups throughout the state, and really pushing to advance mental health services and the rights of folks with mental health and substance use challenges and all people with disabilities. So we really encourage you to connect with us and get involved in the advocacy throughout the year. Thank you all for attending, and we look forward to you all coming to any future events. So thank you.
Thank you to all.
All right, take care, everyone.
You too. I'm going to go run my NAMI meeting.
Okay.